David McManaway, and actually there's
he
two
made for his father.
Yeah, this was
his
one
birthday.
of McManaway's Jomo pieces. And it was to celebrate my dad's birthday. That was my dad's birthday, March the 24th.
And he was born in 1918?
Yes, 1918. Wow. And he died in 1966, so he was barely 48 years old. And his artistic career spanned about 20 years. And it's really amazing the productivity that he had during that 20-year period. These little pieces I enjoy. They're called Icons for Agnostics, and they're all lost wax, and my dad gave them as gifts. So you'll find these pieces in a lot of artists' personal collections. He had given them. He was quite successful as an artist, and it really, I think it's amazing that a modernist sculptor working in Fort Worth, Texas in the 1950s could make a living. But he did. I can see the chronology of his work centered around tools and his acquisition of tools, because when he sold a piece, he bought a tool that would open up something else. So the first work, the early work, this piece we'll see in other rooms, some of his woodwork. Why is he working in stone and wood? Because all it required was a mallet and a chisel. This was actually a presentation model for a very long dividing wall that I think it was 40 feet long. It was made out of the same materials, and it was commissioned and executed. Unfortunately, it was destroyed in a fire. But I still have the model that he made to present to the customer. After he was successful with wood and stone and was able to buy a acetylene welder, then these weldments start appearing in his work.
Was that the time that Roger Winter was kind of hired to help your father to do the welding?
Yes, although he was working in copper at that time. I think Roger was doing some brazing on some copper pieces. This is a welded copper piece, and he was not able to do this until he acquired a shielded arc welder. This happened to be a heliarc machine, and then he was able to weld copper. Yeah, I love this piece. It's called Indecision. This photograph, I think, says a lot about Williams, who was just amazingly charismatic. He really gathered people around him. This photograph is, and it has been treated by Jack Boynton. He did the artwork on top of the photograph. But the photograph I have in my collection, and the date on the back of it indicates it's about a month after the liberation of Paris, which takes place in August of 1944. And this is my dad posing in front of Harry's New York bar in Paris with Harry. And you have to wonder, how does a 26-year-old kid from Mineral Wells, Texas, come to Europe via Utah Beach, participate in the liberation, and within a few weeks be photographed posing very friendly with Harry of the most famous bar in the world, probably. But that's how he was able to open doors, and I think it's part of that answers that mystery of how does a modernist sculptor make a living in Fort Worth, Texas. He sold himself in what he was doing, and I think he also was very important in educating the patronage base that existed in Fort Worth and Dallas and Houston, because he was very sought after by those patrons that were able to support the art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in your opening on your website, and you mention Kennedy staying in the hotel room, mm-hmm. Surrounded by European art. Most of that art was from the Wiener collection. This owl, for example, you know, the Carter recreated that. Mm-hmm. And if you looked at who contributed that art, most of it was by Gwen Wiener, because it was all from the Wiener collection. Here's an art, more Lipschitz. A lot of my dad's stuff is mm-hmm. in it. He really...
That's his early cast bronze sculpture?
Yes, this is cast bronze. Here's the fountain that we looked at.
Wow.
There it is in place.
So the one you have, just a small model too?
Right, I do.
Wow.
Actually, he wrote his master's thesis at TCU about the construction of this fountain. Mm-hmm. This is done out of formed copper.
Mm-hmm. It looks like
sheet.
A lotus flower thing.
Well, it's actually, his inspiration was calligraphy. And you can see that, and which is very plant-like. So he goes into that in some detail in his master's thesis. But
and how big is the scale in real?
Well, this is about 14 feet high. I have a couple of big castings left. Mm-hmm. This is my favorite. This is entitled Earth Gender.
Earth of Gender?
Earth Gender.
Okay.
Actually, it has both a male and a female side. This is from his studio. This was actually, and the studio was located in the country. It was on a rural postal route. And this was the mailbox in front of the studio.
And this is just some found object you painted?
Well, no, this was just constructed out of pipe that he built. I think the value of my dad's participation in the art scene had a lot of dimensions to it. And certainly what he did with his own art is pretty remarkable, and it holds up very, very well. But he also was an important mentor to a number of people, Love, Fridge, Owens, that went on to have successful careers. And another dimension of his contribution was as a technical source. You know, he was an engineer. Mm-hmm. So he really understood materials and tools, mm-hmm. and was constantly the go-to guy for, you know, how do you do this? Mm-hmm. And he could provide that kind of technical information. And that's what drew a lot of other artists to him. He was quite a charismatic individual, but he also had this technical information that wasn't available anywhere else.